Hi, witches.
Hi, witches.
Welcome to week
9
of
the Beginner Witch series.
Tonight, we're going to talk about chakras and the energy centers of the human body.
Welcome, everyone. You are in week 9,
The Beginner Witch series.
the Beginner Witch series. This is week 9.
We are the new Witch Academy of Modern Magic.
Already 7:06, so I think we better.
Impression.
I think we better. Well, we have a lot of people here, and they're expecting, you know.
I love it. I love that everybody's here tonight, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jaymes. I've been a practicing witch for 25 years. This is my mom, Kat. She's been under my wing and thumb for the last 3 years. Helping mold her into the best witch she can be, whatever that means for her. So
I'm just going to get right into the lesson. Chakras, chakra work, aka energy work, is another tool in a witch's toolbox. So that's a really important thing. This may or may not, as a witch, this may or may not be something that resonates with you. If it doesn't, leave it.
Yeah.
You might come back to it at some point in time in the future, but if it does, then explore.
yes.
The word chakra literally means wheel in Sanskrit and symbolizes the flow of energy in our body. The 7 chakras present in your body are energy centers and are known to be the source of emotion.
Yep.
Their origin can be traced back 25 to 3,500 years ago to India, early Hinduism, and Buddhism.
So this is before those religions actually formed. Like, those are the modern names of it. Things have evolved and so have the practices, but we find the oldest recordings of understanding the body has energy centers, and we can manipulate them, we can discover them, we can see them even, with extrasensory perception. This has been going on a long time. So as witches, we're like, we must have known people who did this too. We're all healing and working together on this energy stuff. So we find it vital to bring it into our practice.
So, and the whole thing about chakras is it's energy.
It's just talking about
as
energy.
We talked about in the last two sessions, we talked about magic ingredients of everyday properties, and we were really talking about energetic vibrations that are present in everything in our world, in everything, in us, in our world. And so, as witches, when we think about why are we here, what are we going to do with this craft that we're studying? We want to learn how to manipulate the energy in our life to make our life better, to make us happier, to bring in good things, to fix things, to find our higher purpose, our highest purpose in life. So that's the whole, anyway, for me, and I think for Jaymes too, the purpose of witchcraft is to really find this elevated person, or to elevate to your highest self. Chakras are part of a much larger auric field. The aura is the field of energy. I probably said that wrong.
You didn't. No, aura, I don't want you to forget. You have an example.
Jaymes has an example, and you could show it if you want. The aura is a field of energy that surrounds and permeates the human body. Our auras are the unseen and outward expression of who we are on an energetic level. I know you all can relate to this in meeting people and either vibing with them or not. That is what we're talking. That is that energetic field that all of us have.
We all sense it. We just don't always say it in that way.
We can't see it, but if we could, it might look like.
I'm admitting somebody into the meeting. Okay,
it might look like
this, you guys, is actually Kat's reading from a couple years ago. And this is her aura reading of her body. And you can see the colorful dots. Those are the chakras. They didn't give off a reading for that specifically, but her whole body.
So there's the
aura. Is that your head?
That's just my head. But yeah, but you can see the
body.
Aura. So this was, I went to Spirit Fest, which is here in Florida.
Yeah.
If you ever get to go, I think it's worth a trip or two. You find some cool things there, but
there's people doing fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, our auras are the unseen and outward expression of who we are on an energetic level.
although some people do see them, right? You guys have heard of people who can see auras. There's lots of research and studies and people who try to help you learn to read auras. I've definitely tried for myself and I just got bored with it. Sorry.
And actually, there's actually instructions for how you can teach yourself to read other people's auras. Mm-hmm. It's like put them up against the white wall and this, that, and other, but I'm not going on.
Squint your eyes and let things happen. It's a process, but that is trying to see somebody's energy that it's not truly physical, right? We start to open that third eye, which is one of the chakras that we'll talk about, but that's just more sensing. You know how we call ourselves intuitive peoples, right? Like we feel things, we know things. This is just another system that helps us decide what we're feeling and what we're knowing and how to go about it. Just another system to add to the toolbox.
Generally speaking, we have 7 chakras, and this is in the Western system, of course. Yeah. This is how in the Western world, how we
the last couple hundred years.
You will find others right about 6, 9, or even 114. But yeah, I'm glad it's simple here, and we just have 7 to do.
I do have a book that has 9 chakra systems in it, and I kind of like it because it talks about like the star seed chakra, and I was like, ooh, I just like the sound of that. And then there's a couple more like in the elevated head position. I'm like, yes, I want to talk more to the people on the other side. So I do like it and I look into it.
But for our beginners, it might be easier just to focus on the 7 in the Western. So there's 7 dots there. I don't know if you can see them all. So why is this a thing?
Why is it a thing?
Why is it? Why are chakras a thing? So it's a well-documented ancient practice. Mystics have worked with and studied chakras and incorporated them into a wide variety of spiritual practices.
I want to make a note right here really quick, you guys. I didn't put this in the notes and I don't know if we should include it on the webpage.
Go ahead.
Here's the crazy thing about the difference, the big divide with the Himalayan mountains. Okay, I'm going to go really nerdy on you for a second, but it's important.
Nerdy witch. She can't help herself.
It's really important for the world history and how everything on the western side of the Himalayas got burned. I mean, all of the libraries, every time a new religion wanted to come in and take somebody out, they just burned all their shit. Like that's what they did. So all those things were lost. Well, guess what? Way up in the Himalayas where nobody was climbing to and getting close to any of these ancient texts, they all survived. So that's why we talk about this is one of the oldest systems surviving in print because those cultures were not vandalized the way other cultures were, including witches and Christians and Muslims, all of us. Whatever religion you've ever been in, whatever practice you've ever been in, at some point you were a target of some people trying to destroy your stuff. And so we really have to go off of like what we can assume. And that's why witchcraft is without rules. You go off of what feels right. You just have the knowing. So that's the ancient, if you've heard of the Vedas, if you guys are into like ancient aliens or anything, which I love, but the Veda texts are some of the oldest texts on the planet because nobody pillaged and burned them. That's why. So good to know.
All right. So we already mentioned Western, which is us. We're in the Western world.
We're considered Western.
Right. So Western practices focus on 7 primary chakras running from the base of the spine to the top of the head. And this is where we're going to focus our learning. So if you were to explore this topic, you would find a whole lot of other information. We're staying like right here in this little narrow. We live well, and this is a part of the world that we live in. So we're not going to get all out there. And there's a lot of other things out there. If anybody's interested in that, I'm sure it's a rabbit hole that would be great to go down if you have the time.
And if you can find somebody who knows about it too, it's so fun to learn about it because you'll feel and see and hear the connections. And you're like, man, I always knew, like I knew there was something about that. And it's just confirmation about this energetic system that we can all experience in different ways. And we call it different things, but it works.
So working with chakras has been linked to increased lifespan, physical, mental, and emotional health, and overall personal well-being. Because chakras are energy centers, working with them can help us bring balance into our lives.
And that's huge for witches, right? Like what this ultimately speaks to, you guys, and we didn't write this in the lesson again, but this is the shadow work that witches often get into. This is where we really want to heal ourselves from past stuff that's happened to us, childhood hurts, bad, terrible relationships that you wish you could wipe.
All the baggage that you're carrying around from
emotional
your life
baggage
that you would just like to be free of.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to think about it anymore.
Or it doesn't hurt and it doesn't leave physical ailments. You know, this carrying around that negative blocked energy can manifest itself, which I know the Kat's going to talk about. I will not. We are
going to talk about that because, well,
it's important.
It is.
This is a healing journey. This is,
and I think we can probably, I hope anyway, that most of you are here because you're either, you know, for us, like witchcraft is healing, and it's a journey to it's a journey to elevated and to being elevated from wherever you are right now, unless you're all the way, like you're already there.
In which case, join us and become a teacher.
So why should you care about chakras? Each chakra is linked to organs in the body.
Very important.
Every chakra is linked to organs in the body. Mm-hmm. Emotional and mental attitudes.
Also very important as we walk through our lives. What are we putting out into the world? How do we think about ourselves?
Physical health and diseases. Go ahead and add
exactly. Okay. Exactly. The physical part of ourselves. How can you become better when you are in pain every single day? Like, we have to alleviate ourselves of the pain, whether it's emotional, physical, or spiritual pain, coming to terms with the fact that a lot of shit happens to us that's not our fault, and we can stop like harboring it, and it's on them. It's not our story. It's their story. We didn't ask for it. We didn't deserve it. And then moving on, like, that's how we regain our power. We literally call it back to ourselves by letting all that other stuff go.
Chakras are also linked to colors, sounds, and psychic abilities.
I was going to say, you can find the sounds thing. I've never done it, but the chakra sound healings is a whole thing. I know that there's singing bowls that can be attuned to the same thing, but colors is where I really relate the chakras to. And when I want to empower a chakra, I wear that color, or I bring in that color to something, because I know what that is like in the core of me, where that sits. And that's why I like it. I know we talked about red last week or the week before.
Well, we're actually gonna give you some examples of this in like real life. So these associations can be symbolic, based on mathematical formulas, or personal opinions and experiences by well-regarded spiritual practitioners. So how do chakras help us? Did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Well, she gave 3 examples and we ran through it pretty fast, but this is how we experience them. You're going to find somebody who's worked with it before and what works for them, and that's okay. Remember that if you're looking for a super, super hard, fast rule, you're just not going to find one. You're going to find people who have had different experiences doing different things. And that's why you should feel like that is your vibe. That is what fits with you. And when people don't fit with you, just be like, oh, okay, well, that's not the match, right? Energetically, we're just not there together. So that's the personal experiences, especially if you want to get into Reiki, which we're going to talk about in a minute. You listed 3 things. Symbolic, that's us practicing on ourselves. We bring in the symbology of it. The mathematical formulas, you guys, literally science and witchcraft are so intertwined. Sometimes it's hard to see that these 2 books don't write each other. Like, it's crazy. You can find so much supporting scientific evidence for stuff like this, specifically chakras and energy work. So, and the personal experiences one, I already said that one. Okay. Those were my ad-libs.
Okay. So how do chakras help us? When we're struggling in a particular area of our life, we can look to chakras to determine where energy might be out of balance. With this knowledge, we can create balance. This may be through meditation, Reiki, acupuncture, crystal healings, or spell work.
So that's a big thing. Go ahead.
So example, let's say that you struggle to speak up for yourself.
Speak up.
And you kind of let people push you around, and you don't often, you're like, I kind of let people push me around, and
I put it in a first person. I didn't like the you thing.
All right, let me start over. She edited my lesson here. So I'm like, okay, here's an example. Let's say that you're the type of person who
speak for, like, do you.
But because it's not me, so I can't really relate to it. Okay, let's say that I can't speak up for myself.
Yes.
And I can't, I sort of like, I let people cross my boundaries, push me around, not in like push me around. This is so foreign to me because I would like kick some ass before that would ever happen.
That's why I need her to
Yeah,
read it.
it's like before that would ever happen, I would flip out.
Okay, but
Just saying,
imagine,
y'all, I'm a Scorpio. I'm going for the throat.
Okay.
That's it.
on the
Jugular.
other hand, Pisces, nice stable energy over here.
Jaymes like me. Jaymes should be reading this.
Totally
Okay,
believable.
let's say Jayme has a hard time speaking up for herself,
Which
and
I
she
did.
kind of lets
I
other,
did.
and she kind of lets people push her around.
That's
and
right.
you know, when someone crosses her boundaries, she doesn't. She's like, oh, you know,
I did.
I really,
Authority figures specifically.
I don't like confrontation.
Okay, I'm not pathetic.
So.
Don't do that. All right. I just wouldn't say anything. I'm like,
Okay, so you get the point. Sorry, we're being silly here. But you know, it's kind of like the person who's like, I mean, I can see this person in my office. Like
you've met these people.
I've met these people. So
I've
it's like the ones who like they just, you know, they're like they think to them, they're kind of timid, shy. Yeah, okay, so let's say that this is you or someone you know.
Or me.
If this is you, you might benefit from working with the throat chakra. So the throat chakra is associated with communication, speaking up, expressing yourself, finding your voice. With a little research, you can find ways to, so this is for you guys. So if this is you or somebody that you know and you want to help them, with a little research, you can find ways to activate, open, cleanse, or balance your throat chakra. Something else that you can always do, that you can also do, is you can wear a choker or a necklace with, so blue is the color of throat chakra. So find a crystal that's blue, like lapis lazuli, blue agate, sodalite. Sodalite's very available. Very. Wear that as a choker so that it's close to your throat, and that can help you with
speaking
learning to speak, learn
up
to
for yourself.
Finding your voice.
All right, wait. So I just got this crazy download, you guys, which is basically me receiving a message from somewhere. It's like, hey, guess what? Boom. I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow your effing mind. Are you ready for this? So you guys,
wait, hold on.
When I was a kid, I always told myself, I'm like, I'm shy, I'm introverted, I don't speak up, you know, that I just ran away from problems. I'm like, I don't like confrontation. I'm a Pisces.
She was like, super sweet.
I was into artwork and shit. I just wanted to do beautiful things with my life.
It was very chill. This was my easy kid.
Yay.
The others were like me.
Ready to fight. Okay, so guess what I did that changed everything? Because this is literally color theory coming into play. I joined the Navy. Do you know what color our uniforms are in the Navy? Blue. I became the best leader ever there. I stuck up for myself and other people. I was a lower rank, but yet in charge of people that were higher ranked than me. Like this just hit me. I never
you made that connection.
I just made the connection
between the blues.
right now, the blue and the throat thing.
The
and
blue.
I didn't even realize like that was.
So not only can you wear like a choker with blue, but wear blue clothing.
Blue was my favorite color growing up. You know that blue was my absolute favorite color. I wore ridiculous blue eyeshadow. It was terrible. I wish I had pictures of that. I painted my nails
I'm
blue.
sure I do. We can share them on the next episode.
I mean, I was obsessed with blue. And yet that was like the chakra that was hurting so bad for me. I'm going to have to journal about this now because
I've opened up a whole journal episode here with this.
The can of worms is officially open. I'm going to have to
Well, I can attest to all of that because Jayme was very soft-spoken and really sweet and didn't like confrontation.
I was the label that now I wish was not a label. I was a people pleaser.
Yeah.
People pleaser. And I'm so uncomfortable with that saying now that when I hear other people describe themselves, I'm like, no. Wait. Because if you're a people pleaser, you're doing things for other people and not yourself. And that's not true. We do it so that we keep ourselves safe, but we're really just trying to make sure nobody else is upset with us so that we can like be happy over here. So you're not really people pleasing, you're pleasing you, but you're doing it in such a way that like you don't get to speak up. You don't get to have a choice or like a path. So super interesting, mind blown. Y'all just experienced it live.
All right. So little side note here. Jenny, why you got to put us on Front Street like that, girl? What the heck?
I don't.
Never mind. Okay. So how can this help you? Chakras are about balance and harmony. And don't we all wish we could have more of that in our lives? Beginning with the root chakra, the foundation of all chakras, and moving up the body to the crown chakra, where we reach our highest. So root at the base, at our pelvis. Crown here, about here, or here.
Yeah, third eye crown.
Third eye crown. In the video. So from bottom to and moving up the crown chakra, where we reach our highest level of enlightenment. We address areas of our lives that are lacking or in need of improvement with the ultimate goal of reaching our highest purpose. Because why else are we here? Why are we studying witchcraft if it's not to get to a higher purpose in life? Like, figure out what we're doing.
Well, if it's to get back at your ex or like do some mean shit, this is probably not the group for you. Just letting you know now, we don't go through any of that.
We don't do that.
We don't do
that. Chakras are also associated with body parts and systems. For example, the solar plexus chakra is associated with the pancreas, an organ that is both an exocrine and an endocrine gland. Okay, so now if you all remember back in science.
No.
So an exocrine gland makes substances like sweat, tears, and saliva, and an endocrine gland secretes hormones. Disease and dysfunction associated with this organ are hypoglycemia and type 1 diabetes. Studying chakras with any associated health issues you may have could help improve the quality of your life and treat disease holistically. So a word of caution here, when we start talking about let's heal ourselves with crystals and things like that, chakras is not a substitute for professional medical care. So please keep that in mind if you go down this road, because I don't want to see anybody
grabbing
the ramifications there are pretty
severe.
Yeah, pretty severe. So stuck energy in our bodies causes an imbalance, manifesting in disease, tumors, cancers, and destructive beliefs. Go ahead.
Okay, I wrote that little bit because what she said before this, I don't know who else was going like WTF. I don't know what any of that is, but it's.
You mean endocrine and exocrine? She's like, I'm getting way too technical here.
See, this is all because of that app, isn't it? She's trying to like improve her brain function. And now she's learning big words and trying to the host of.
I'm a word person.
She is. She's always been my dictionary. But the whole point of her saying what she said is that you can really go on and find out what each chakra rules in your body as far as physical organs. And so, for example, because she read all of that personal story, since I was very little, I have struggled with stomach problems. I mean, like upset stomach ulcers. Like every time I ate, it was like, I don't feel good. Like everything made me nauseous, and you just try to find things that don't hurt your stomach that day. It's a ridiculous way to live, ridiculous. But let's link that back to other things. All right, remember that soft-spoken kid that couldn't speak up? I had anxiety from all of that shit. All of that just gave me lots of anxiety. So I was just living with it, not giving it a name. Nobody called it that. They were like, you have an upset stomach. I'm like, oh, actually, I suffer from high anxiety. Thank you, though. Now I know. And what did that anxiety come from? And that was my lack of being able to feel safe, stick up for myself. My lower 3 chakras, like I was all up here. I had like the spiritual connection, the art thing. I knew what I wanted. If I was safe to talk, I could, beautiful talking to anybody who would listen. I'm a chatterbox. I know that. But when I wasn't comfortable, those other 3 chakras were absolutely shut down, and they're right in your stomach system. So they're just under your sternum. They're in the sacral, which is all of your reproductive organs. And then it's like the sexual part of yourself, the base root, like safe, feed me, I need to reproduce. Those 3 were messed up for me for a long time, until I realized that doing some color therapy and some actual therapy, I really saw a therapist for 3 years, you guys. I recommend it to everybody. Everybody should have a fucking therapist. It's great to just tell somebody your problems and then walk away from them and be like, they're never going to see me, or they can't judge me, or whatever. It's awesome. And you work through things because you can say things and feel safe about it. But it wasn't until really going through all of that my stomach issues went away. I mean, when I was younger, you guys, like 14 years old, I was getting pills for ulcers. I've had biopsies for my stomach, and I'm like, I don't have any health problems, no health problems. And yet my stomach bothered me, and they could never, ever figure out what it was. That was the key. When they're like, I don't know, you just have a constant upset stomach. I'm like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. I either have something or I don't. but it was energetically, right?
So that's a really good point that you make about you go to the doctor with a complaint about your health and they're like, well,
we don't know what to do for you.
We don't know.
Here's some pills.
And if you can't, and I don't like pills. So when they try to give me some, I'm like, yeah, no thanks. Because I want to know what the problem is. But I think that's a really good a really good example of somebody who from a really young age had trouble speaking in certain situations, and that manifested in this, you know, like deep down.
Well, what 14-year-old has ulcers, you guys? Like what? Yeah, no, they were shocked. They were like, something's really wrong here.
So, you know, something to think about in terms of, so when we talk about stuck energies manifesting diseases in our bodies,
physically
manifesting.
Yes, that's what we were getting to with all of that endochrome, exochrome.
The one thing that you can think about on a personal level is like, how do you feel when you're experiencing jealousy, anger, betrayal, or some other really intense emotion, negative emotions? Yeah. You know, how does that make you feel physically? Think about that. Biggest tip, if you can switch your emotion to love or gratitude, you'll instantly change the energy of your body.
That's for when you're having like a hard time. Sorry to cut you off, because that was like it's like a subtle note, but it had such a bigger implication when I wrote it. What I've learned in my years of teaching others, because that's really when I started to become more knowledgeable about myself. I started teaching new witches, you know, so many years ago now, like 20 years ago. I started to reflect on myself and what I was telling them. I'm like, how can I know how to help them and not know how to help myself? And it took a lot of time to invest that self-love, to tell myself like, hey, here's the things, like you need to eat your advice, you know, you need to ingest that needs to be for you.
You take your own advice,
eat it. Yeah. You can't eat it.
Yeah, take your own advice. Yeah,
what she said. I think it looks funnier for me if I imagine eating my own advice. I like that because then it goes to my belly where I had the problem. So with helping other people and then figuring that out, my biggest learning thing, which was crazy working through chakras, is if you know what gratitude feels like, I mean, get to a point where you walk outside and you're ready to cry because you're so happy with your life, with something in it, like you're so incredibly grateful. You're like, oh my God, I've reached it. I've reached the precipice of like what happy can be. If you can harness that and call that feeling back up when you're feeling really shitty, it switches everything. Like remembering to be grateful for your experience, for coming here, for what you're really doing. Like the hard times are going to be there, but what are you really doing with this? If we get stuck on the negative side of it, if we get lost in all of those negative emotions that, you know, suck us dry and cause diseases, we end up not living out our full potential. You live in a lot more heartache and pain. Whereas when you switch over to that gratitude side, even when stuff is really bad, you still have love. You can still have things you can appreciate. That's why nature is here and like all the animals in the world, because you're going to find one of them that brings you joy, whether it's a cat, a dog, a dolphin, or a manatee. Like one of those little guys is going to bring you a lot of joy. And that's when you're going to forget everything else and be in that moment of like joy and love for the moment. Be able to recall that, and that starts to heal yourself. You just like let go of all the other anxiety shit that you were thinking, all the other bad stuff of like worry and fear and whatever. It's like, nope, there's so many beautiful things out there that we can live for and keep going with.
So I love that.
Thank you.
And I would really like to share some example, an example with you, at least one, so that you guys can put that into context of something in your life. So there was a point with, and I'm going to use you as an example, if that's okay.
I'm just on blast tonight.
So, okay. So there was a point in Jaymes' life, probably 4 or 5 years ago, where she was very stressed out whenever she drove and like freaked out, like an accident was going to happen. Like she was
always
just sure
anticipating.
She was, you know, drove like this, you know, fist clenched, and then also like screaming at everybody when they were driving by. You know, I would call her from Kansas City and we'd be talking on the phone. This is her and her sister both. Florida driving is crazy. They drive, you know, 30 miles in a 55 and just crazy. It's just really annoying.
It's a big mix of people with different driving capabilities.
But the point is that all of that stuff, as she would get out onto the road, she would let it affect her. And it would make her, so she would see accidents that would freak her out. So what she did finally to combat that was she created a mantra, you know, you can tell them what it is, but she created a mantra that she put on a little card and she hung it.
Yeah.
And she hung it from her rear view mirror. Yeah. And so when she went out and she would be in this situation where cars were being crazy and traffic was crazy, which is pretty much all the time from October to April here in Florida, she would recite those words and it would calm her down. So when you think about, when I made the statement, if you can switch your emotion from love to gratitude, or if you can switch your emotion, one of the ways that you can do that is with mantras,
affirmations and mantras.
If you find yourself in a situation where every time you're in it, you're just like your whole body, you have a physical, this has happened to me.
Yeah.
Physical reaction to it. What the thing to do there is get yourself a mantra that you can repeat in those situations, because it will help alleviate what is happening to you physically.
I just want to shout out to Tracy who wrote it down, because I don't know when I said it correctly. There was a video where I couldn't remember what I said, and it's peace, love, joy, and gratitude. That was my thing, and she got it on point.
Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy, thank you. Oh my gosh, yes.
So if you're experiencing anything in your life, it might not be driving, it may be some other situation that brings up these feelings, these really strong feelings where it sort of takes over.
Yes.
Well, I have an ex, and if he texts me or message me or whatever, I have a physical reaction to that. And so I have to like calm myself down. So you may have something like that in your life, and you can use mantras to bring peace back to your energetic. It's an energy
to yourself.
Thing.
Yeah. It's like,
so chakras,
reclaiming your power.
That's exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. It's taking control. Chakras, wrapping this up. We're going to wrap this up now. So chakras are another tool in a witch's toolbox. And if this is something that interests you, we encourage you to follow this path and see where it takes you. During session, we spent a lot of time going over every chakra and what it meant and what body part and what the sound was. Super dense information. And that video,
it's in the playlist on YouTube. Yeah,
it's on YouTube. Yeah. So if you want that level of detail, we'd like to give you some homework so that this sort of reinforces whatever we're teaching here tonight. Here's your exercise. In your book of shadows, document the color associations of each chakra. You can find this all over online, you guys.
Find the one that fits with you too. Yeah.
Besides the color associations, find crystals that you like, and just note that for future, because right now you're gathering information. You may never do anything with chakras, but you'll probably do something with crystals, but maybe not. But just write it down so that you have that information as a reference for a point in time when you may be like, damn, it may click. If chakras isn't vibing with you today, that's okay. It may be something that you come back to later on. So just take
at least now you've heard of it.
Yeah, and you know about it. And the last 2 weeks we've talked about magic ingredients. So we're working our way up to spells, as you guys might guess. So we're working our way up to spell work. So we're trying to bring all these things together that have to do with spells. Correspondences. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for week 9 of the Beginner Witch series, where we talked about
chakras and energy work,
energy systems that you can put in your witch's toolbox. We'll see you next week.